Well, now we're going to talk about how to find the greatest common factor of a pair of numbers. And it's pretty simple. It works like this. Let's take a pair of numbers such as 4 and 6, and we might ask ourselves, what is the greatest common factor of 4 and 6? In other words, what is the biggest number that will go into 4 and 6 evenly? That's what greatest common factor is. What is the largest or biggest number that will divide into 4 and 6 evenly? And so here's how we do this. We start out with what I like to call the ladder method. We're going to build a ladder. You'll see how this works as we get into more complicated problems finding the greatest common factor. In this case, I think our ladder is only going to have one rung or one step. So we're going to build this ladder. And on the ladder, we're going to put 4 and 6. And we're going to start out by looking at a number that will divide into 4 and 6 evenly. And, you know, the smallest number I can think of that'll divide into 4 and 6 evenly would be 2. And 2 goes into 4 2 times. And 2 goes into 6 3 times. Can you think of a number that will divide evenly into both 2 and 3? No, I didn't think so. So we're going to stop right there. And the greatest common factor is this number, 2. So 2 is the greatest common factor, or the GCF, of 4 and 6. Well, let's look at another problem here. Let's take another pair of numbers, and the pair of numbers we're going to look at are 16 and 24. And we would ask ourselves, what is the greatest common factor of 16 and 24? In other words, what is the largest number that will divide evenly into 16 and 24? And that will be the greatest common factor for this pair of numbers. And we work the same way. We start out by building a ladder. And on the ladder, we're going to set our 16 and our 24. And we're going to divide it by, well, I know 2 will divide into 16 and 24 evenly, so I'm going to divide 2 into 16. That gives me 8. And I'm going to divide 2 into 24, and that's going to give me 12. Well, I can still divide this further by 2, so I'm going to put another rung on the ladder. So I'm going to divide that by 2, and 2 goes into 8 4 times. And 2 goes into 12 6 times. And I know again I can divide 2 into 4 and into 6. So I'm going to continue. So 2 goes into 4 2 times. 2 goes into 6 3 times. Now, if you stop and think about this, is there a number that will divide evenly into both 2 and 3? And if the answer is no, then we have to stop right there. And so, the greatest common factor of 16 and 24 is 2 times 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4, and then 4 times 2 is 8. So the greatest common factor is 8. The greatest common factor, GCF, for 16 and 24 is this number, 8. All right, we'll take a minute. We'll work one more problem. How about these two numbers, 12 and 34? What is the greatest common factor of 12 and 34? Well, we can take the 12 and the 34, and we can set the 12 and the 34 on the top rung of our ladder. And we can divide each one by 2. 2 goes into 12 6 times, and 2 goes into 34 17 times. So what is the greatest common factor of 2 and 34? Well, we can't divide anything evenly into 6 and 17, So we have to stop there, and our greatest common factor is 2. The GCF, greatest common factor of 12 and 34 is 2. There's our answer. Greatest common factor. And that's how you can find the greatest common factor of a pair of numbers.